Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Elizabeth Fernandez. I'm studying to become a teacher at the Institute Dardo Rocha from Resistencia Chaco. And this is a video from the subject, Language and Grammar 4. Okay, before start, I would like to tell you that today I'm going to explain to you about the past continuous, how it forms, the uses, and some little exercises, okay? Are you ready? Let's start. Allow me, first of all, to show you a little power I made in order to explain you even better. Okay, first of all, it's important for us to know why we use the past simple. The past simple, we use the past continuous, it is formed. First of all, it is important to remember that it's formed with the past tense of the verb to be plus a main verb with the suffix ing attached to this verb. Now, how this is formed? Let me tell you this. First of all, how to form the past continuous. It is important to remember, very important to remember, about the past simple of the verb to be. In the case of the past simple of the verb to be, we have for singular nouns and for plural nouns. In the case of the singular, we have the presence, we are in the presence of the verb was. This verb was works with the pronouns I, he, she, it. As regards the pronoun I, remember that the pronoun I refers to the first person in singular. I, for example, he, to remember to point, even better, to point to a masculine figure in the singular form. She, singular, feminine, and it. It's a pronoun that it doesn't have a gender, and we always use to refer to an animal or to thing. Never, ever we use that to refer to people or person. For example, in the case of the pronoun it, I may say, it's a table, it's a chair, it's a book, it's a pencil, it's a picture. Okay, let's go on. Now, what about the plural? In the case of the plural, we are in the presence of the pronoun of the verb were. In the case of the verb were, we have to know that this verb works with the pronouns we, you, and they. In the case of the pronoun we, remember that we, it's a pronoun we use to refer to a group of people where we are implied, where we make part of that group. So we say we, okay? I am included there. What about you? You and they. They, it's a group of a person, it's a group of people where you are not included. So you say they, okay? Can you see my finger in order to show you? Right there. Now, this is very important to remember. And this is something that most people are confused or have some troubles to work with. And this is about the kind of sentences. For example, we're going to start by the affirmative form. In the affirmative form, it's important for us to remember the structure of these kinds of sentence. We have the presence of the subject. The subject determines who or what I am talking about in a sentence, the presence of the verb was of, or were, that is going to depend on the subject I used before. To determine if it's singular, for example, I'm going to use the pronoun was. If it's plural, I'm going to use the verb were. Plus a verb, this verb represents the main action of a sentence. And this verb is going to have implied or attached a suffix, which is the ing form. For example, I may say, I was baking a cake, or they were running a race. Now, what happened in the case of a negative form? In the case of the negative form, sorry, I already lost that. In the case of the negative form, it is formed by the subject, again, who or what I am talking about in a sentence, the presence of the was, the verb was, plus not. In this case, I show you there the contraction of this, or the verb were plus not, which result in the verb weren't. Okay. And again, it's important to determine, first of all, if we're talking about a singular or if we are working with a plural noun in the subject, to determine which I am going to use, if wasn't or weren't. Then I have the presence of a main verb, which determines the action that is happening in a sentence, plus the ing form attached to this verb. For example, taking the example I used before, I wasn't baking a cake, or they weren't running a race. How about the interrogative form? In interrogative form, I have something very particular. Why? Because it's going to change places the subject with the verb as regards, or to contrast with the affirmative form, for example. In the case of the interrogative form, I'm going to start by there was of the were, depending if it's singular or plural, plus the subject, plus the verb, the main verb of the sentence, attached with the ing form to this main verb. For example, using the same examples I used before, was I baking a cake, or were they running a race? Now, I would like to talk to you about the uses. When can I use the past continuous form? For example, I may use the past continuous form when something continued before and after another action. For example, Dana was cooking dinner when Sam got home. You have the action there in the middle, then what happened before and what happened after. All right? What about the case of something that took action after a particular time? For example, in March, she was working 3 jobs. And last but not least, to show that something continued for some time, you have in this case a little picture to show you an example. For example, everyone was laughing. You have the past, you have the present, and you have the future. What about something that continued to happen? He was working hard every day. And in the case with verb that show some changes. For example, she was spending money quickly. It is important, again, to remember that we have some time markers that can highlight the presence or highlight us that we have to work with the past continuous tense. For example, always, when, while, constantly, all evening, at this time, at that time. Now, shall we practice a little? Sure. Are you ready? Come on. Let me show you something. In this case, I would like you to decide if each question or statement is correct or wrong. For example, I left home at 6:30 this morning and went to work. What do you think? It's correct? It's wrong? Let's try with another one. He was doing his homework when I called him. Correct? Wrong? What do you think? Would you like to post for me below this video your answers? I would be so glad to read about it. Okay? Well, hope you enjoyed this video. And if you would like to say something to me, some suggestions, or just to talk about, I'll be glad to read. Have a nice time. See you. Goodbye.